You call it being nice, being easy to work with, being considerate, being someone people like. But if you're honest, a lot of your life has been built around one quiet question. Will they approve of me? And that question is exhausting. Because it never really leaves. It's there when you type a message, then rewrite it 3 times before sending. It's there when someone takes too long to reply, and your brain instantly starts investigating. Did I say something weird? Were they annoyed? Did I come off too needy? It's there when you want to say no, but hear yourself saying yes. Again, even though your chest tightens, even though you're tired, even though a part of you is screaming, "Why am I doing this?" But you do it anyway, because disappointing people feels dangerous. And that's the strange part. For someone who wants freedom, you spend an unbelievable amount of energy managing other people's perception of you. Not always consciously. Most of the time, it's automatic. You adjust your personality depending on who you're around. You soften opinions, hide parts of yourself, laugh when something wasn't funny, act less ambitious around insecure people, act less emotional around detached people. You shapeshift. Not because you're fake, because somewhere along the way, your nervous system learned something. Approval feels safe. Disapproval feels threatening. And once that wiring gets installed, everything changes. You stop living from truth. You start living from reaction. At first, this feels harmless. You tell yourself it's emotional intelligence, social awareness, maturity. But here's what nobody realizes. There's a massive difference between understanding people and becoming controlled by them. That difference changes everything, because one gives you connection. The other steals your identity, and this is where things start falling apart. Not dramatically. Quietly. You wake up tired but don't know why. You feel resentment but can't explain it. You're productive on paper, busy, responsive, available, but weirdly empty. Like your life is moving, but you aren't in it. You don't notice it immediately. The loss happens in tiny moments. Every time you silence what you really feel. Every time you say yes while meaning no. Every time you perform instead of expressing. Piece by piece, you disappear. And the scary part? People often reward this version of you. They call you dependable, easygoing, selfless, low maintenance. Sounds nice, right? Until you realize something brutal. Sometimes people love the version of you that requires the least honesty from them. Sit with that for a second. The version of you that never asks for much, never creates conflict, never challenges expectations. That version gets approval fast. But approval has a hidden price, and most people pay it without noticing. They trade authenticity for acceptance. And maybe that sounds dramatic, but think about your own life. How often do you make choices based on desire versus anticipated judgment? What will they think if I quit? What if they think I'm lazy? What if they think I fail? What if they think I changed? What if they don't like me anymore? That last one hits deeper than most people admit. Because approval chasing isn't really about praise. It's about avoiding rejection. That's when the real problem begins. Because now your decisions aren't driven by alignment. They're driven by fear. And fear is sneaky. It rarely sounds dramatic. It sounds reasonable. Maybe I should wait. Maybe this isn't the right time. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I should keep the peace. And this is where the shift begins. Not when you become fearless, not when you stop caring completely. That's not realistic. You're human. Of course you care what people think. The goal was never emotional numbness. The goal is something much harder. To care, without being controlled. There's a difference, a massive one. You can value connection without worshiping approval. You can respect opinions without surrendering your identity. You can listen, without abandoning yourself. But first you need to see something clearly. Most of the pressure you feel isn't coming from other people. It's coming from the version of them living inside your head. Read that again. Because this changes everything. Half the time, you're not reacting to reality. You're reacting to imagination. You assume judgment before it happens. Assume rejection before evidence exists. Assume disapproval before anyone speaks. Your nervous system fills in the blanks. And usually, it fills them with fear. That's why one unread message can ruin your mood. Why one awkward interaction replays for hours. Why lying in bed at night feels like sitting in a courtroom, with your own mind as prosecutor. Evidence? Everything embarrassing you've ever done. Verdict? Still not enough. Still not worthy. Still too much. Or not enough. And that's exhausting, because you can't win against a judge whose standards keep moving. But here's the truth you may have spent years avoiding. Not everyone will understand you. Not everyone will like you. Not everyone will approve of your choices. And weirdly, that's not tragedy. That's freedom. Because the moment you accept this, something loosens. You stop trying to control uncontrollable things, and people are uncontrollable. Their opinions, their moods, their projections, their assumptions. None of that belongs to you. You can explain yourself perfectly and still be misunderstood. You can act with integrity and still be criticized. You can love deeply and still disappoint someone. That used to terrify you, because somewhere inside, you believed, if someone is upset with me, I must have done something wrong. But that belief breaks the moment you realize something deeper. Sometimes people are uncomfortable because you stopped betraying yourself for their comfort. That's different. Very different. Someone might call you selfish because boundaries inconvenience them. Someone might call you cold because you stopped over-explaining. Someone might pull away because the version of you they liked was easier to control. That hurts. No point pretending otherwise. But pain doesn't automatically mean you made the wrong choice. This is the part most people miss. Growth often feels like guilt at first, because your old identity fights back. The people-pleaser panics. The approval addict negotiates. The survival pattern whispers, go back, fix it, make them happy. You'll feel that pull. Strongly, especially in silence. Especially when someone seems disappointed. That old wiring will scream. But don't miss what's happening. You're not failing. You're withdrawing from dependency, and withdrawal feels uncomfortable. Because for years, approval was emotional oxygen. No wonder independence feels strange. But the more you practice staying with discomfort, without rushing to repair every perception, the stronger you become. Not harder. Stronger. There's a difference. Hardness closes. Strength stays open. Strength says, I can tolerate being misunderstood. I can survive disapproval. I can disappoint someone and remain whole. That sentence alone changes lives, because once you believe that, you stop performing so much. You speak more honestly. Your no becomes cleaner. Your yes becomes real. Your relationships shift. Some get deeper. Some disappear. And yes, that can feel lonely. For a while. Because every identity death has a gap. Old patterns leave before new peace fully arrives. That space feels strange, quiet, unfamiliar. But stay there, because something beautiful happens in that silence. You start hearing yourself again. Not the anxious voice, not the performing voice, not the pleasing voice. You. The version buried under years of adaptation. The one asking different questions now. Not, what do they want from me? But what feels true. Not, how do I avoid judgment? But what am I protecting by hiding? Not, how do I get approval? But do I approve of how I'm living? That question might be the most important one, because at the end of the day, you live with yourself. Not with everyone's opinions, not with every projection, not with every temporary judgment, with yourself. So here's something worth remembering. Most people are too busy thinking about themselves to think about you nearly as much as you fear. And the ones obsessively judging, they're often fighting battles inside themselves. Judgment says more about the judge than the target. Always. So maybe freedom doesn't begin when the world approves. Maybe freedom begins when approval stops being your compass. When you stop asking permission to be honest. When you stop shrinking to stay acceptable. When you stop outsourcing self-worth. Because the truth is, you were never meant to earn your right to exist authentically. That was never supposed to be a performance. And maybe that's the hidden exhaustion you felt. Not work, not life, not responsibilities. Performance. Constant performance. Managing perception. Managing reactions. Managing approval. No wonder you're tired. Anyone would be. But now you see it. And once you see it, you can't fully unsee it. You'll catch yourself pausing before over-explaining. You'll notice the urge to people please. You'll feel that old panic when someone disapproves. But now there's awareness. And awareness creates choice. That's where freedom begins. Quietly, not dramatically. In small moments, one honest no, one unedited message, one boundary, one decision made from truth instead of fear. That's how you reclaim yourself, not all at once, moment by moment. And if this felt a little too real, maybe that's the part you shouldn't ignore.